Yeah, I'm working with the BBC here in Johannesburg. Thabo Mbeki, the former president of South Africa, has written a letter in one of the papers here suggesting that the West is bulldozing its way with the situation in Libya, and Africa has been ignored. And he was referring to the fact that many African nations feel that when the resolution was signed to for the no-fly zone, it didn't include aerial bombardments. And now there are similar echoes coming from the South African foreign minister talking about the bombardments by the UN and the French in Ivory Coast. I was just wondering if you're worried at all that there could be a feeling in Africa that the West is acting in a fairly colonial way and not really listening to the Africans' view on how these crises should be resolved.
That's a good question, and certainly, it's something that we're aware of, and it's one of the reasons why we've been working hard to communicate what our goals are, what UN Security Council Resolution 1973 aims to achieve. The other point that I've been trying to stress this morning is that this was an urgent action, talking about Libya now, an urgent action that was taken to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe, and that it was taken, at the request by both the Libyan opposition and also the Arab League, which issued an unprecedented appeal for assistance to the Libyan people. So the idea that this is some sort of largely Western effort to meddle in Libyan affairs is just it's flat out incorrect. This was an international effort to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe. I don't know how to put it more simply than that. And it's important that we stress that and stress it off, because that message, I think, is lost in some of the actions on the ground and some of the fluidity, if you will, of the situation on the ground. It's also important in Cote d'Ivoire to stress that the international approach and the fact that it's largely been ECOWAS that has taken the lead on pushing this, Mr. Gbagbo to step down and to allow for that transition to take place. These are, ECOWAS. The other important thing too is that we've been working with the African Union on our efforts in Libya, and there was a strong statement out of the African Union just 1 week ago, out of Addis Ababa, saying that a democratic transition needed to take place. There's certainly a lot of voices out there, and we're aware of those, conflicting views. We believe that in both cases, we are working through appropriate international channels. Our goals are basically for democratic transitions and that need to take place. They're both very different situations, very wary of conflating the two in any way, shape, or form, but essentially, you've got a leader in Libya who has lost legitimacy, people who need to have their aspirations addressed, their democratic aspirations addressed in a meaningful way. And in Cote d'Ivoire, you had a democratic process that was successful in electing a new president, and you've got one individual who's simply refusing to yield power, and that cannot be allowed as well, and that, for the good of Africa. In answer to your question, sure, we're aware of those kinds of criticisms, but it's important to stress that this is, in both cases, been a very international effort done in concert with African bodies, both the AU and ECOWAS. Next question.
All right. I am back again, Cecil. This morning there was a group known as the Friends Against Western Forces in Libya, and they went on a protest march to present a petition to the French ambassador. And I am carrying one of their concerns, and it's got to do with persistent attack on Islam. I am tying this to the attacks in Libya and the intervention by the Western forces. How would you convince the rest of the world that this is certainly not the position of America, and for that matter?
I'm sorry, you said that this is an attack on Islam? That's their criticism? Just trying to clarify your question.
One of their major concerns, one of their concerns they raised.
It's a ridiculous assertion, Cecil. We have Arab League countries who are part of the no-fly zone and enforcing the no-fly zone. Qatar and the UAE are providing aerial support and airplanes to the no-fly zone effort. and we're also looking for more Arab League participation. And our actions, the UN's actions in Libya, are in direct response to a plea by the Arab League for assistance. So to make this into some kind of strike against Islam is just it's utterly ridiculous.
Hi, this is Joshua Berger from AFP. I wanted to ask for the U.S. reaction to news out of Ivory Coast that French and UN forces had directly targeted Gbagbo targets in Abidjan, and also some news from France today that Gbagbo is in the process of negotiating his departure.
Well, and to your latter question, that would be welcome news. We've seen other reports like that. To take it too seriously, I think we just need to let the events play out. You know, we've been calling for his departure, and certainly it's absolutely needed to end the violence there. In response to your first question, you're talking about press reports that I apologize if I haven't been following it. That French forces have targeted Gbagbo forces.
Have targeted the presidential palace and Gbagbo's residence.
I'm not aware of those specific reports. I do know that the French Licorne forces are playing a critical role in supporting UNOKI and also protecting civilians. But I can't speak to those allegations. I'm sorry.
My name is Beno Noluka from the Daily Monitor in Kampala. President Museveni has spoken out against the approach taken by the UN on the two issues, on the two crises. On Ivory Coast, he said the approach is merely simplistic because of the tribal dynamics in the country. On Libya, he says the UN has used double standards because at one time he asked for a no-fly zone in Somalia, and nobody gave it to Uganda because he felt that there was no oil in Somalia. What do you say about this, the position of President Museveni on these two issues? Is there double standards? Do you feel there is double standards? And your own views on his position?
Well, I'm always wary of addressing what another leader has said when I don't have the full context of what he said in front of me. I'm not going to address his remarks or your interpretation of his remarks directly. All I can say is that we have been working through ECOWAS.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the document that he wrote in which he looks at both sides of the story, of the Libyan story?
No, I'm not, but I will attempt to. But I can answer the larger question you pose, which is that is it overly simplistic our approach to Cote d'Ivoire? What we feel is that we've been working through through ECOWAS and the AU to basically to carry out the democratic mandate that took place there. It can't be more clear in our mind that President Ouattara won the presidential elections there and should be allowed to take office. It's really democracy denied to the Ivorian people who have endured much suffering over the past decade and more, and deserve the kind of leader that President Ouattara represents, and who they elected fairly and freely. And Mr. Gbagbo has denied that transition, has denied them that democratic governance. He needs to depart the scene, and he needs to allow President Ouattara to step in and to lead Ivory Coast to a better future, to Cote d'Ivoire to a better future. That's very clear to us. And Libya, I can't remember I think it was something about only because of oil that we acted there. We acted, frankly, Libya's oil reserves are not profound and had no bearing on the international community's actions. Why the international community acted in Libya was to prevent a pending humanitarian catastrophe. We had a leader who had turned arms against his people and was threatening to raise a city of 700,000 people, and was committing human rights abuses against innocent civilians. And so the international community, working with the Arab League, decided to act and did act in very short time and prevented that catastrophe from taking place. Now is now providing humanitarian assistance to the people of Libya, and we view that as an overwhelming success. So, double standards. I try not to ever apply the same kind of approach to any given country. Obviously, situations are always different, but I think there was a sense of urgency with what was taking place in Libya that prompted our actions and the international community's actions.
My name is Roland Aquasteven from Radio Gold, and my question has to do with the concerns raised by the Senator for Oklahoma, James Inhofe. He's calling for a presidential rerun of the elections in Cote d'Ivoire and saying that the constitution of Cote d'Ivoire hasn't been fully succumbed with or to, because the constitution says that the electoral commission declares the results and the constitutional candidate announces the results. And in the second round, it wasn't done as it was done to the first round. What is your response to that concern by the Senator for Oklahoma? Thank you.
It's a good question. We're very much aware of Senator Inhofe's views on the presidential election in Cote d'Ivoire. I would just simply reiterate what I said earlier, which is that the election was seen as free and fair by international monitoring groups, and the results couldn't have been clearer. This is not a case. There was not a case of fraud here. This was a case of democratic election, free and fair, that elected Alassane Ouattara as president, and he should be allowed to take office. Really, again, this is let's be very clear. It is Mr. Gbagbo who has created the situation in which Cote d'Ivoire finds itself today, and he needs to step aside and allow for President Ouattara to become president and to lead Cote d'Ivoire forward. But we are aware of Senator Inhofe's views on this. We obviously collaborate and work closely with Congress, but we respect his views. But our views are very clear that President Ouattara is the winner of that election. Thank you so much for joining this call this morning. I truly appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all, and I thank our hub in Pretoria for setting this up, and look forward to more opportunities in the future. Everyone have a great day.